1. This only happened because I am a strange individual with strange friends and a highly intelligent mom. As a kid, my parents got me a medium-weight grey jacket with 14 pockets. They chose it for me because it was winter. I don't like wearing bright colors and love pockets and always find a way to use them. When they bought it for me, it went down a little past my knees. I had that jacket and wore it every school day for about 6 years or so, regardless of the weather, until it literally fell apart and my parents never questioned me about it. One day, we moved, and I had to switch to a different high school. Some of the students didn't like that I am a loner and was wearing a worn-out grey jacket. I never bothered anyone, ate lunch by myself, ignored anything that was said to me, positive or otherwise, and was content to leave people alone. But someone told their parents that they were scared that I was going to do something. This wasn't all that long after the Columbine school shooting, and back in the day that many schools had the DARE program. DARE, was it? The Drug Abuse Resistance Education program that many US schools had or have. One day, the DARE officer meets me at the bus stop off Point and says that I can't wear the jacket since it is scaring other kids and he needs to look through my backpack and locker. The locker they had access to anyways, but in order to check me and my bag for anything, they had to wait for my parents to show up. Locker checked out good, and when my irate mom showed up and let them check me to prove a point, they didn't know what to say but told her I couldn't wear that jacket to the school. Not because it was old and showed its miles, but because it scared other kids. That night, it poured massive amounts of rain and the temperature dropped. I didn't have a jacket that I could wear to school anymore, so I was thinking I'd just stay home. That is until my mom asked if I had a friend's phone number. A friend of mine who was homeschooled had a hobby of making chainmail armor with heavy leather padding under it to keep it from chafing. His parents let him do it, and he sold it at Renaissance fairs or at a local flea market, and used the money to fund his gaming habit. He was about my size, and had kept a set for himself that he'd tinker with if he found out about a different method for doing it, or was trying something new out. She decided to drop me off that day by way of my friend's house, and then went to a local gas station to wait for the fallout. My homeroom teacher loved it, but she was also a history teacher that loved her job. The other students didn't have a clue what to do, and I was fairly comfortable and entirely warm and dry in it. My first class had just started when the door comes flying open, with the DARE officer then trying to sneak in after they'd opened it. I never understood why people do that. The door latch and hinges make a noise as soon as you open them, and there was that strange vacant sound difference combined with the teacher stopping mid-lecture to draw attention to you sneaking in. The class was fairly full, about 30 students, but it only took a few moments to single me out. Back to the front office we go, where my mom is waiting with my old jacket. The principal's mouth drops open as I stroll through the door, armor clinking and jingling at every step. "What do you think you're wearing?" He's wearing a coat. "What? That's not a coat." "It's a coat of arms intended to provide a squire with some protection during battle to aid his assigned knight. It was also worn by various others throughout history. I like the armor and weaponry from that period and its history." "You can't wear that. It is scaring the other kids and violates the school dress code." My mom says, "Actually, no, it doesn't violate anything. And if someone else's brat is scared that my kid is just wearing the armor, then why aren't the goth kids I've seen walking past in their massive black trench coats being harassed? What about that other kid that was just in here with the massive backpack? They could more easily hide something that the kid should be scared of instead of my son. Has anyone said that he said anything dangerous or threatening?" "No, but we've had student and parent complaints about your son already." "What are they complaining about?" "They're scared of your son because he doesn't talk to anyone, hangs out by himself, was wearing a huge jacket. We have to do something. Everyone is scared after that school shooting." You have got to be kidding me. You're singling out my son, a new student, because he doesn't know anyone and hasn't made any friends yet. I'll skip much of the conversation from there, but mostly because I dozed off and this is getting long. After a while, my mom woke me up saying that the principal has decided to suspend me over the coat. My mom is not a person to piss off and went to the next school board meeting with me in tow. She explained the whole situation as she understood it, had me stand up to show how threatening I was while wearing the grey coat. And then the chainmail. I was, and still am, a tall, skinny guy with glasses and my nose always in a book. The principal ended up getting a lecture, and written up for failure to stop harassment of a student, and being complicit in harassing a student, or some equivalent legal jargon. We were told that I could wear the jacket again. 2. A few years ago, after moving to VA where my then fiancé, now husband, lives, it was taking some time for me to find a job. I have a background in executive admin and was eventually able to find work in that field, but for a few months I helped out at a friend's house cleaning company to make some extra money. Most people won't do that work, but I'm here to tell you that the work is hard but satisfying, and you will most definitely lose weight doing it. Me, poor little hardworking me, CHL, crazy hoarder lady, boss. I am one of the only house cleaners at the company that speaks fluent English, and this meant they liked to send me on the more difficult clients because I could understand better what they wanted. Not to say at all that I was a better worker than anyone else. They were so much better at their jobs and much harder working, but they did like to take me to the crazy clients because I could understand what they wanted and, if necessary, explain why it was or wasn't possible. No, we can't do a full deep clean of your 4-bedroom townhouse in an hour, unless you are willing to pay for 4 more people to help, etc. This woman, CHL, was never happy with anyone. She yelled at and complained about every person that cleaned her house, and always requested someone new. So they decided to send me, which of course I was super excited about. Walking into her house, horror movie music went off in my head. She wasn't a gross mold and bugs and newspapers everywhere hoarder. She was a, classy hoarder? Fine furniture packing her rooms to the point they couldn't have been used because you couldn't even get into the rooms. Thousands, not exaggerating, of figurines covering the shelves. Picture frames every few inches on every wall. The worst part, 4 huge St. Bernard, shedding, drooling, dusty, muddy St. Bernards. She is very excited to see someone who understands English and then launches into all her instructions about what must be done. Bathroom needs a deep clean, bleach wherever I can. Shower has lime stains that must come out. Huge jacuzzi tub has to be completely cleaned, not just dusted. And the 10 plants around the tub need to be moved and cleaned as well. There are special requirements for every bedroom. Her adult son is home from college and his bathroom is absolutely atrocious, so I have to spend time in there. I have to dust every trinket and picture frame. There is special leather treatment for all the furniture. Every appliance in the kitchen has a different treatment. The special backsplash behind the oven has 2 different treatments. Oh, and I have to clean all the drool stains on the walls and windows. It's important to stop and explain that there are 2 types of cleanings that we give. Deep cleaning scrub, carpet washing, baseboard and wall cleaning. And weekly cleaning. Basic bathroom washdown, dust, vacuum, etc. Each had an allotment based on the size of the home. This was a weekly cleaning, and it was supposed to take 4 hours. And I had a house after hers. I'm 3 hours in and I haven't left the top floor yet. Every single thing I do she has a problem with, and instructs me to do a different way. I tell her that my time is ending soon, and if she wanted me to stay longer I had to call my boss. She insisted I do so, and my boss told me she would put someone else on the second house, to stay as long as I needed for her to be happy, and I would be paid. My boss knew this woman was a little crazy, but she didn't know how crazy. Mainly because of said language barriers with the other workers. She mostly wanted me to stay to do a full cleaning because she wanted a little more recon on this house, since it had been so problematic in the past. So I stay until she is completely happy. 9 hours, on a 3-bedroom, 2.5-bath house. She checked on every room after I was done dusting it from top to bottom, and found it needed to be dusted again. She thought I was bad at dusting. No. Her house was just so disgusting that it got dusty again that quick. Sorry, I still have nightmares. My boss couldn't believe it had really taken me that long. She didn't think I was lying by any means, just thought that since I was still a little new, it couldn't possibly be as bad as I was saying it was. And on top of that, CHL still called to complain about me. I was sent back again the next week, and again the same thing. 9 hours of doing everything the exact way she wanted. She calls to complain. Next week, they send me and a more experienced cleaner. 8 hours of the two of us, and she calls to complain. Finally, my boss is over this. She offers to come clean the house herself. CHL is so pleased. She finally has what she wants. The most experienced cleaner giving her top-notch service. The same thing happens. My boss is there for 9 hours. She comes back to the office looking ragged. It's been a war with dust and hair and drool. So CHL got what she wanted. The top dog to come and clean her house. And what does the boss lady, top dog, do? Realize that they are undercharging her by half and double her rate. She was furious and we left her to find a different company to be suckered into cleaning that mess. 3. For several years I've worked in retail for a certain blue store that is famous for its questionable business practices in regards to their employees and their pay. I've been a hard-working member of the team and only call out sick if it is absolutely necessary, as times are hard and money is tight, and my work ethic is something I pride myself on. I have several supervisors, store, section, team leads, etc., and many of them don't know me very well. I'm a very private person, and I try not to get my personal struggles intertwined with my work. However, I was unable to keep it to myself when I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease last August. Oftentimes I'm in pain, but it's tolerable enough to work through and ignore. Recently, several months after diagnosis, the pain has become nearly unbearable, as well as other issues from the disease, unexpected diarrhea, bloating, gas, and/or constipation. It's nearly impossible to even walk on my bad days, and I need to be within crawling distance of a toilet. Unfortunately, my store manager didn't understand the disease well at all, even after I tried to give him a medical notice from my gastroenterologist, and has made the whole situation much harder for me. I try not to complain about it, or use it as an excuse, but when something this serious comes into my life, I have to accommodate until my doctor and I find the right treatment for me. After a week of consistently bad days, I had the worst day I've ever had with my disease. The whole night before, I was writhing in agony. My stomach was gurgling and my digestive tract felt like someone had blown thousands of bubbles inside of me. Between the cramps, diarrhea, and my inability to eat because of the pain, otherwise it'll just come right back up. Sorry. I was almost completely incapacitated. I was supposed to work from 12 p.m. to 9 p.m., but I knew I wouldn't be able to do anything even if I went in. I contacted all of my available co-workers, all of which were unable to cover the shift. At 8 a.m. I called into the store. The following conversation followed. G is my general manager, me is me.
Hello, this is Crapmart. My name is G, how can I help you?
Hey G, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to make it in today. I've been in too much pain to do much of anything, so I wouldn't be able to do my job. I've tried to find someone to cover the shift, but no one was able to. I wanted to give you enough time to find someone.
What? I need you here today.
I'm sorry, I wish I could, but... He abruptly cuts me off.
You're not blowing up, are you? You need to come in. I'm not going to deal with being short-staffed again because you can't take care of your woman's problems.
I'm absolutely astonished that this is happening. Gee, I have a disease. I gave you my medical accommodation form. This isn't about me not taking care of myself, it's about being honest that I won't be able to work even if I came in.
Listen, you will be here today, do you understand?
I'm growing more ashamed and angry by the moment. I told you I can't. I don't call often, but I am too ill to be there.
Be here or you're fired.
He slams down the phone, disconnecting the call. I sat there staring at my phone, knowing that what he just did wasn't legal or okay by any means. I decided that I'd show him what I was really dealing with. I managed to get dressed and my lovely boyfriend drove me to work. because I couldn't focus on driving. He wished me luck and reminded me that I come first, not the store. He loves me very much, and I can't imagine going through all this alone. I slowly walked into the store and clocked in. G was standing by the time clock, smiling smugly at me as I punched in. I knew I looked awful. I was bloated, and dark circles under my eyes stood out against my otherwise pale, clammy skin. I didn't greet him, just grabbed my walkie and went to my section. Less than half an hour into my shift, I feel my insides, metaphorically, flip. Now was the time to put in some gross effect of malicious compliance. I knew I couldn't leave my area without coverage, so I called over the walkie for G, telling him I needed to take a break right now. He sighed and walked back to my section to see what my problem was. While he closed in, he started telling me that he had other shit to do. Right then, as I knew there was no way to make it to the bathroom, my bowels released themselves. Right there on the sales floor. The khakis I wore were easily ruined. My entire body clenched and the unbelievable pain skyrocketed further, forcing me to wrap my arms around my stomach to keep it together. I looked up at him, panting and nearly in tears. He looked disgusted and furious. "What?"
"You told me to come in, or I was fired."
His expression turned to one of realization and shock as he sheepishly looked away from my face, giving me the go-ahead to head home. I know it was a mistake, but I still told the district manager, his boss, and gave them all the information about the conversation G and I had over the phone and about my accommodation letter. I haven't heard anything about the complaint, aside from the DM informing me that I would be paid for the full 9 hours of that shift, in which I had to leave early. But I've never been told to come in on a bad day again. Update. As of noon today, my manager has been terminated from his position at the crappy retail store. In addition, my lawyer will be meeting with the store's legal team to discuss compensation. But I'm unable to discuss that further until it's settled. If the offer is unsatisfactory, we'll be going to court. Thank you to everyone who encouraged me to seek legal assistance. I can't even explain how overjoyed I am by the support. You all rock. 4. A little bit of background. A few years ago, my brother and I rented an apartment from a complex I'll call Sunshine Apartments. It was on the ground floor with 2 floors above us, and all the layouts were exactly the same no matter what floor you lived on. This will be important later. One Sunday morning, I noticed that the ceiling in my bathroom was starting to form holes, and there was an ugly water stain that took up half the ceiling. I should have immediately called it in, but decided to wait until Tuesday, my day off, to call it in. My reasoning at the time made sense. I wanted to be there to ensure my cat didn't escape. This was my fault, and I fully admit that. Come that evening, I got off work and settled into my favorite chair with my laptop, and talking to my friends on Discord. My brother was closing the grocery store where he works, so I had a nice quiet place to myself, or so I thought. An hour later, I heard a loud wham and the sound of running water. "Oh shit," I said, and I ran into my bathroom and was greeted with the sight of a large hole in my ceiling, at least 2 feet wide, right above my shower. Plaster was everywhere, and water was pouring down. If I had been taking a shower, I would have gotten hit by falling debris. I immediately called the 24-hour emergency maintenance number. The repairman who answered, who I will call George, had done some repair work for our apartment in the past, and while he did take a while to get to repairs, he overall did a good job, so I thought he was trustworthy. The conversation goes as follows.
"Sunshine Apartment Emergency Maintenance, this is George. How may I help you?"
Deciding to be extra polite to offset the fact that it was late. "Hello, George. This is HCA 2001 in apartment 5678 in Building 9. I know it's late, but there is a giant hole in my bathroom ceiling caused by a water leak. Can you please come over and fix it?"
I just got home. You call again in the morning."
Cue simmering rage. Part of me wanted to tell him to get his butt over here and fix the damn hole in my ceiling. However, a new thought came over me, and I decided to teach him a little lesson. "Of course. You have a good night." The next morning, I called into work to get the day off before calling the maintenance number again. This time, a different gentleman, who I'll call Hector, answered. Hector and I knew each other from my long walks around the complex. He'd always ask how my cat was and say hi to her from him, which is always a plus in my book. I politely asked Hector to come fix the ceiling, but added a small tone of irritation in my voice, which was genuine. He agreed and was over in 10 minutes. When he came in, I brought him into the bathroom and showed him.
Holy shit! Did you call this in when it happened?
I did, but George asked me to wait until today to call.
Why did he ask you to wait?
He said he had just gotten home.
I see. Let me check your upstairs neighbor's shower and then we'll get you taken care of.
Thank you so much, Hector. It took Hector a total of 4 hours to diagnose the cause of the leak, a split ring, if I recall correctly, find the correct part needed, repair it, and put a cardboard cover over the hole so that it had a chance to dry out, mold being a huge problem in hot and humid Florida. He also called for the carpet cleaner to come over with fans to dry the carpets and laminate floors, and for people to clean up the debris. Of course, I was very grateful and thanked everyone profusely. In hindsight, I should have brought over food and water for them, but that'll be for next time. I never did see George again. A few weeks later, I happened to run into Hector while on my walk, and casually brought up the fact that I hadn't seen George in a while.
Oh yeah, he was fired.
I'm genuinely surprised.
Really?
May I ask why?
He had been constantly late and leaving early, and he was supposed to be on the clock when you called about that busted ceiling. The manager had been looking for a reason to fire him for a while now.
For the record, I was never trying to get George fired, and I do feel a little guilty about that, having endured a 2-year stint of unemployment. But then I remember he brought this upon himself. It was a 24-hour emergency maintenance number, and I was unable to use my bathroom. 5. I really can't remember exactly how long ago this was, or how old I was, but let's just say it was in the range of 25 to 28 years ago, and I was in the 9 to 12 age range. Across the street from my house, and just a bit up the street, there is a small stretch of grass owned by the parish. There's nothing there now but grass, but back at this time, there were a couple of trees, and some kind of parish building with a bunch of orange work pickup trucks in the grass. One evening, myself, my brother, and a couple of friends that lived across the street at the time went around and collected some crappy boards, climbed into one of the trees, and made a very simple little treehouse. Not even a house, just a platform a couple of us could sit on up there. We hung out up there for a little bit, and then it was time to go home. Not even an hour later, my mom got a hold of me and brought me to the front door. Apparently, a parish representative had been banging on the door and complained about our treehouse. So my mom let him in to talk to me. He decided the best course of action was to talk to me, around 10 years old at the time, like a criminal, and that I needed to remove the treehouse. He didn't make any threats or anything, but his tone and attitude were very, "You did something really bad, and there will be consequences." Bear in mind that this was well after that building had closed for the day. I said okay, I would remove it the next morning. It was just a few boards and wouldn't take long. I guess he was satisfied. Next morning I head out to do it, and the parish guys are up in the tree pulling the boards out. Earlier than they had ever been to work before, I was surprised. Even at that young age, I knew that these people didn't know the meaning of a hard day's work, so seeing them there that early was shocking. From then on, I decided I would no longer mow the narrow strips of neutral ground just across the sidewalk from our yard, nor the wide, long strip of property they owned that was about 15 feet away from my family's business. It was easily twice the size of the piece of land we were actually responsible for keeping up, but we maintained it anyway just because. Almost done, but pausing here a bit for info and clarification to help understand just why I consider this story malicious compliance. These people had their building on that piece of property where we built the treehouse. They never maintained it. They would let it grow up like crazy, and rats and snakes would take up residence, and from there invade our yards. Every neighbor in the area complained to them, and it would take them months to get out there and mow the grass. Like I said, this was a small piece of property, and one guy on one of their riding mowers could have done it in 30 minutes. But that was just too much for them. even though they were more than happy to show up after hours to complain about a few boards in a tree. Basically, they pretended like they didn't care about the property when it came to maintaining it, but they had no problem throwing their weight around if you went on it. Now with that out of the way, I'll finish up. Since I was no longer maintaining the neutral ground in the property they owned next to our business, it naturally started overgrowing. They would drive by and take pictures and file complaints, and try to bully us into doing something. My mom would do it sometimes, as I guess she didn't really care that much, but to me it never seemed right for them to pick and choose like that. So I just went all in and didn't touch their property at all. Fast forward to today. I have an apartment about a 30-second walk from my parents' house where I lived at that time, and to this day if the grounds get too shaggy, they try to throw their weight around. I just tell them it's not my property. So far, nothing has happened. They let it get so tall that they need to bring people with heavier equipment than normal riding mowers out here to deal with it. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Revenge is Ice Cream, number 25. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Well, good news for those of you who are getting as annoyed by the streams not working properly as I am. I believe the issue may be the computer. The fact of the matter is, that computer was not built for virtual reality. And I've wanted to upgrade for a bit. And so, you'll be happy to know your Patreon donations, as they always do, go towards making things better on the channel. And so, I've ordered some new components, and most of the new computer will arrive sometime this week. I think the 20th is the latest date, but most of it arrives the 17th. Try to get it all together, but we'll see. It might all arrive on the 17th. And there's a few bits and pieces from the current rig I can salvage. No point buying, because the PSU is brand new, more or less. It's only a few months old. One of the hard drives is brand new, and the other one isn't, but it's still perfectly functional, and I'm not buying a new operating system and hard drive if I don't have to. I think the RAM is also salvageable. Yeah, I think that's about it. So I will try and get that built reasonably soon after the components arrive, and fingers and toes crossed that fixes the streaming issue. And if it doesn't, it should at least give my VR experience should be a bit of a boost. Because as I say, that PC, while it can run virtual reality, it wasn't built for it, so it's noticeably not built for it. So it's a bit janky, to be honest with you. A lot of the time you turn your head and the whole room moves with you. That's not fun. So, well, yeah, we'll see. And with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.